Hello, everyone. This is John from RPGs and More. And in today's episode, I want to talk to you about a book that I really enjoy. And that is the Prince Valiant storytelling game episode book. I don't think I've talked about this book in and of itself in too much detail thus far. I know I mentioned it in my initial Prince Valiant uh, episode when I was talking about the system, but I want to talk about this book in particular. And one of the reasons why I want to talk about it is because there's some things about this book that I think can be used in many different systems, not just the Prince Valiant storytelling game. And it gave me an idea that I kind of wanted to throw out there to the universe and maybe see if some other people wanted to pick it up. So that'll be how we end this one. So first, let's talk about the book itself. The Prince Valiant storytelling game episode book is a compilation of 34 different episodes or adventures that you can place within your Prince Valiant game. They can be put in, a lot of them can be slotted in almost any location. Some of them are a little more specific to particular types of biomes and areas, but you know, a good DM can kind of make a lot of different things fit with a little ad lib. But what's interesting about these is they're all separate. They're different scenarios than what is in the Prince Valiant storytelling game core book. There are a lot of scenarios and episodes in that book as well. But this one, these are different. And one of the things that sets these apart is some of them are more complex, some of them are simpler, and some of them stretch the setting in ways that the core book does not. There's actually one of them in here that deals with what could be the undead or the spirit world and have an undead knight fight against your knights, and I think that's really kind of cool. You can also flavor it as, like, you know, kind of the green man from the forest if you want to, but they have a rather sinister flavoring to this, and that's that one scenario or that one episode. But there's a few others in here that really kind of show you that it's not all bright pastel colors in this universe. There are dark and sinister forces at work, and your characters can go up against those. And there's a lot more scenarios that, if you want to, you can actually reskin them to be a bit more dark and sinister, if that's your desire. So I don't want you to look at all this and see the bright, vibrant colors of Hal Foster's work and assume that everything has to be really bright and colorful. I mean, let's look at the back cover too. There's the images continued there. It's gorgeous. But just because it's all pretty to look at doesn't mean it's all, you know, happy and there's no sadness and there's no anger and there's no bad endings. Believe me, the stories are full of that stuff. All right. So that's what the book is. Let's take a look at the inside. This is, I'll get a spread here. Let's go back to the beginning. I'll show you the first adventure in the book. Now, the first adventure is a 2-page adventure. So that's something that's very, very present in this book, is that almost everything exists on 1 or 2 pages, which is page 1, page 2. There's almost, I think there might be one adventure that goes on to a 3rd or 4th page. Almost all of them are very concise, very, very focused. Oh, see, this one actually has, the first one is a 3rd page, so I guess there goes that statement from me. Ha ha. All right. You saw it here first, folks. Anyway, moving on. So this is The Lady at the Bridge. And what it does is, first it sets up a lot of the pieces of the scenario, the pieces of the story. It talks about the name of the lady. It gives you an episode type, or what is the action to expect in this episode. In this case, it's an attack episode, so you can expect that your characters are either going to attack someone or be attacked. And then we talk about the name. You get the name of the lady. You get who the lady is accompanied by. You get sorry, you get the numbers of the warriors that follow her. And then you also get little information about each of the stages of this small adventure, this encounter. There's, the introduction, the rising action, getting to know the lady, a little bit of combat, and then, a question that needs to be answered. There's a dilemma that needs to be dealt with. And then, of course, potential solutions, when the solutions that we expect our players to get a hold of. And then at the end of it, it also has the stat blocks for the 3 primary entities that you will encounter in this adventure. In this case, the Lady Bala, the bandits, all are more or less identical, and then the Baron himself. And those are very simple stat blocks. So let's take a look at those. I'll show you what they look like. Very simple, straightforward, small stat blocks. That's something that I enjoy about this system, is unlike some of the more modern role-playing systems that I have read recently and have been reading for the past 5 years or more, a lot of them tend to have very complex monster stats because there's so many different things going on with those monsters. There's so many special abilities that in a lot of cases you need to have a single page just for one monster. I hope you, that's my popcorn in the back. I hope you can't hear it. This book, or this system, the stats for an individual monster, yes, they must be individual because of how the system works, but it's actually pretty it's pretty compact, and you could fit everything you need on one side of a notebook or note card, or a small notebook page, and you're good to go. So I kind of like that. Anyway, there's a lot of different adventures in this book, and they cover a lot of wide variety of actions. There's also a lot of cool art in each of these adventures. But there's one thing that this book does that I want to talk about. This is we need to talk about how this can be used by multiple systems. So, multiple systems can use this because the vast majority of the information in this is all just story. It's the story of each of these encounters. Each one of these one-page encounters can actually be taken and expanded on to create, you could play it as is, and you might get about an hour, maybe an hour and a half of game time out of it. But if you just expand it a little bit, you'll suddenly find yourself getting 2 to 3, maybe 4 hours. That's pretty cool. And all of these adventures are like that. They all have that option for just expanding the story out. And because the stat blocks are so simple and so small, it's not too hard to reskin it to whatever system you want. There's not special powers and abilities, for the most part, that are, untranslatable. So the last bit that I want to talk about is why I think this book is special, and why I want to kind of throw out the idea that I've had, which is this book, in a sense, not only functions as an adventure anthology for the Prince Valiant storytelling game, but it also functions as a bestiary or a monster manual for it, because there's a lot of different NPCs, there's a lot of different creatures, there's lots of different things in here for your players to use as opponents. But each one of them has their own context. They have their own story. And I think that's really cool. And that's what I want to talk about, is I think we need more of that. I think that, since it's really easy for us, especially those of us in the OSR circles, to have lots of monster books. I don't need another monster book that's just a list of monsters. But what I would like to see is a monster book that gives me stats for the monster and then gives me an adventure that contains that monster, maybe some social encounter based adventure, or a small 5-room dungeon crawl, or something along those lines. Put your monsters, especially your original creations, into context in your world. If you're creating a very unique setting and you want to give us a monster book for your setting, then make it an episode book. Make it an adventure anthology where we get the monster stats at the end of the adventure or at the beginning of it, but we also get to place them in the larger context. We know what your vision is. So if you see your orcs as different, don't just give me a bunch of paragraphs telling me they're different. Show me that they're different by placing them in your world, and give me that context for the social structure, for locations and geography, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, that's what's really cool about this book. I really enjoy reading it, even just for the fun of it, and I just wanted to talk about those ideas. Hopefully we can see more of that sort of stuff in the future. Thank you all for tuning in. I'm going to go take my popcorn off the stove before it burns, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Peace be with you. Bye-bye.